Welcome to the Cheerful Soundman podcast, where we talk about life and work in the production industry. Today we're filming some fun stories. Not so fun stories are actually kind of the ones that keep me up at night. Not anymore. We can typically laugh about them after they happened, and because also at some point doing this long enough, you just realize that gig nightmares are going to happen. Things are going to happen, and you just have to respond and try to adjust and do the best you can given the circumstances. Got another good story today. This one's from Soul Fest this last year, S-O-L Fest. A lot of great acts on it. Who was on it this year? Closey was on it. Who were the other headliners? Kanara. Rez was on it. Yeah, a lot of great artists this year. Just great festival, huge setup. We did a really cool setup with a LED wall on top of the stage. It was really fun. But the nightmare starts prior to the show. The nightmare was out actually during the show, thankfully, in this particular case. But this one, we had, it was about 4 days, I think, to set up. We start Sunday or Monday. We start setting up, and it takes several days to build. There were 2 stages that we built. There's one other stage for somebody else built. But it just takes several days with a big crew. I mean, we had 40 or 50 people out there total, building these 2 very large stages, very large builds for, it was about a 10,000 person attendance festival. It might have even been a little more. So a lot of people coming, lots to do, a lot of late nights, those type of things. So on one of the particular nights, it had been a very long day. So we started at 7 or 8 in the morning, worked through the day. It's also in May in Florida, so it is just hot. Everybody's just gross and drenched and, ready to go. I jumped in the spring. It was at a springs. I jumped to the springs and cooled down and then went to bed. And everybody's ready to get a shower and something to drink and go to bed. And we're kind of getting towards the end of our load-in day. And I won't get into the details of it, but there was basically a failure with the mobile stage. So we had brought in a provider, big stage, and basically one of the hydraulics, something had gone wrong. Whole thing kind of tipped a little bit. And so we had to stop work while the staging guys and the engineer came and looked at it and found a fix. So all that happened, which was kind of a nightmare unto itself. But we basically cleared the work site, said, hey, it's late, guys. It's 9 or 10 o'clock. That's not late for production, but we're on hour 12 or 14 of the day. Let's do this, guys. It's going to take the stage guys a couple hours to get this done, and the main stage guy to come recertify it that it's safe to go up and good to fly and all that. Let's everybody just go get some rest, and we'll start fresh. We'll have to start a little earlier tomorrow, but we'll start fresh. It'll go much smoother. So we do that. Crew kind of trickles out and all that. Well, I forgot to mention earlier that day, and throughout the load-in, it had also been particularly difficult because it poured rain 3 or 4 times. And this whole place is a spring, so a lot of elevation changes for Florida, to funnel down into the springs, which go obviously then straight down into the aquifer, into the earth. But when it rains, a lot of that water's flowing everywhere down these the different roads and paths and things to get to the water, as water does. And so as it rained really hard, everything had kind of got muddy. It made, again, load-in was way more difficult because of it. We're all kind of working through that. We had to stop for an hour or 2 during the day because it was just raining so hard and there was lightning. We had to clear the site, the whole deal. Anyway, massive torrential summer Florida storm. We get back to work, everything's fine. What we didn't know, I think Sophia and some of the others that were running around the site more knew, was the main road, which is kind of a back road around the back to our campsite area. It kind of goes down and then around and back up. And it had completely flooded, completely. You couldn't, at the bottom of it, it was all mud, and it was like the red clay mud in North Florida, kind of Georgia, Alabama, North Florida, that red clay. So it gets real slippery too. And the whole area had flooded at the bottom. And I guess we knew about it because our guys were kind of going through it with, we had a couple of little gators and they were all covered in mud. And Travis, one of our guys, has a FJ Cruiser that he was sliding in and out of there and going all over the place. And so anyway, there's 2 paths back to the second stage in the campsite. There's one that's really long, takes, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes in the vehicle. Or there's this other one that's 5 minutes, right? So we're all taking this one, but what's happening is as we go through it is we're just digging deeper and deeper ruts in this mud that you also can't even really see what's under there because there's standing water basically at the bottom. So it's just getting worse and worse every time a vehicle goes through it. It's getting loose and sloppy and everything else. And so one of our contractors, one of our guys that was operating heavy machinery, needed to get, it was a high reach boom lift. So big 4-wheel drive tires and all that, big, it's like the size of a car at the base and then a big boom. And you sit up in the basket and can rig things from it. But he decided that he did not want to drive it around the 20-ish minutes to go that way, which I don't blame him, except for he decided instead to drive it down a pretty steep hill into a mud pit and try to drive it out of a steep hill. So when we had finally called it for the night and said, hey, we're going back to the campsite, everybody rest, we'll start again in the morning. When we had hit that point, I went to go around, and I have a little 4-wheel drive Tacoma we were in, so I felt pretty good about wherever, it was fine getting in and out of stuff. But I come around and there's to the little dip, and there's basically a traffic backup of everybody trying to get back to the campsite because that high reach boom is just stuck in the mud in the bottom, and he's basically sliding, like he'll go a couple feet and then they lose traction and basically slide backwards. And he's been doing this for a while now. I think he had been stuck for probably 30 minutes to an hour before we even got there. And one of the other guys had a Jeep, and he was up at the top of the hill. He had a winch. They're trying all sorts of stuff, doing stuff, trying to get him out of the mud, doing some redneck stuff. It was awesome. But we pull around, and again, everybody's beat at this point. Like, just, I would have loved to have gone to sleep an hour ago, sort of deal. And now we come out, and we're in a backup. And so I said, you know what? It's fine. I flipped my truck into 4-wheel drive mode. So that we'll just go around. So we go down to the bottom of the hill, and it's definitely slippy, sidey. Even with a 4-wheel drive, you're kind of mudding down the hill, and basically a small turn, you end up fishtailing a lot, things like that. I've driven in the mud, sand. I've driven on the beach quite a bit. We're rednecks here in Florida. We do a lot of that, and so I felt really confident until I hit the bottom, and I knew because it was muddier and thicker there. So typically the way you deal with that is you don't slow down. You actually kind of gun it through it and then try to control your fishtail so you don't go too far either way. And so I come down, and I went to go around the person that was waiting. So there's the high reach and then the car waiting, and just enough space really for my car to pass and allow for a little bit of fishtailing. And so I go to go around it, and the back kind of slides a little bit, and I just feel a boom. And I bottomed out the frame of my truck because what I didn't know until Travis showed up a few minutes later is apparently earlier, he had gotten stuck just to the left of the path going around someone and basically dug a giant rut, like multiple feet deep right there. And I just he had gone around right in front of me just before me and gone around fine. And I slid just that extra couple of inches to fall into the hole. And so then clunk, we're in the hole. Basically water's up to my door. Like, I open my door, I can get out, but there's about that much before the water comes in. So I get out, my foot goes down, and I sink into the mud like knee deep, literally like quicksand style. And I just got back in the truck. I was like, that's not gonna work. And so it ended up being then another half hour, 45 minutes of basically Jordan and a couple of the guys anyway, and Travis hooking winches up to the tree at the top. So they actually hooked the Jeep winch to the FJ Cruiser so it wouldn't slide down the hill. And then the FJ Cruiser's winch went to my truck and pulled me out. And then they had to do the same with the boom lift. So we had like a little train of 4-wheel drive vehicles and winches to pull out. So it was actually like, I don't know, even at the time we were all kind of having fun, even though we were tired, and like, that's not what you want to be dealing with at that point. But honestly, you're almost like little kids at that point. Like, Travis slid down the hill in the mud, like he slipped down the hill like a slip and slide. And we're all just covered in mud, and everybody's kind of just having almost a little too much fun for the situation and the scenario. But that's kind of all you can do with it. And that's a big thing I like to always stress too, is you can't, at that point, literally we're stuck in the mud. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to get mad, you're going to storm around, you're going to make your night terrible, you're going to ruin the whole day, or you're going to laugh about it and and joke about it and then go jump in the spring and rinse off and go to bed. Because truthfully, it really, what happens in those situations. It's, again, you can either be real mad about it, or you can laugh it off, have a good time with it, and then realize, hey, I got great stories now for drinking beers and having fun with my friends. And so anyway, that's what we always try to turn our nightmares into good dreams in the end, or at least funny stories. That one didn't hold anything up. Everything ended up smooth on schedule. We got everything done, and actually we were even able to help the other company was having some problems with their lasers, and we're even able to go help them for a few minutes, and everything ended up going great. Amazing festival throughout. A couple other just minor hiccups through the week, but for a whole week out, with 50 people and a massive multi-acre job site, little minor problems here and there, getting stuck in the mud a few times. It just kind of goes with the territory. And most of us and most people that I've met and worked with in the production industry are problem solvers and like solving problems. And if you don't like solving problems, it's actually probably not a great industry to be in, because that is really your job, is to find solutions for things, to find, like earlier we were filming our PA setup and preparation, and it wasn't working how I thought it would, and wasn't stable how I thought it would. So we start trying to solve that problem, and to the next step, trying to find new things, new ways to do it. And same with gig nightmares and things that go wrong on events, is we try to find ways not to repeat them, but in the moment, try to find ways to solve the problem, move forward, and have a great show and a great event.